Well, it's 15 degrees outside and 20 degrees in the coop. Not too bad. Still using the favorite nesting box, and today we only got 2 eggs. We've been getting 6, so I don't know, but it looks like this is all we're getting today. Okay, everybody, welcome back, and today we're going to be talking about something very controversial in the backyard chicken egg world, and that is to wash or not to wash your farm fresh egg. So there's a couple of different philosophies on this, and most people do say you technically don't need to wash the backyard chicken eggs. However, they do get poop, mud, dirt, feathers, things like that stuck to them, and some folks might just have a really hard time accepting that after having bought eggs at the store for so long, and obviously they come nice and clean and fresh, like nothing like that ever happened to them. Also, there is the potential for bacteria. Obviously, if they have that poop on them, dirt, mud, anything else, it's coming from the outdoors and it's not been treated with anything, so it very well could have some bacteria. The biggest things, of course, that you might worry about are E. coli and salmonella, right? But even the store-bought eggs come with that warning in case you hadn't noticed or you don't recall, or whenever there's been an egg recall out there in the industry and through the grocery stores. It happens with those types of eggs on occasion too. That's also why it's always recommended that you don't eat raw eggs, even from the store, because there's that potential that that could be there. So the question is kind of, well, should I or shouldn't I? There's a lot of reasons that people recommend not washing them, and we'll get into that as well. In a moment here, though, I'm going to hold up these awesome little insert cards that I bought from online that kind of explain some things about, not washing them. Of course, there's a lot of pros to that, and like I said, we'll get into that in a moment. We do sell some eggs here, not very many, but just trying to offset our feed cost. So I like to put this insert in with the eggs that I'm selling to folks so that they just know. They know what they're getting, they kind of know what to do with it, etc. There's a front and a back to it, so I'm going to hold up both of these, and if you want, we'll pause right here for a second and you can take a screenshot of this segment of the video. Okay, so obviously the pros of not washing the eggs are that they last longer. So you can leave them out of the refrigerator. That's another one. So I think it's up to 2 months, whatever this card just said. But you can leave them out on your counter, wherever you're storing them in your house, for a much longer period of time before they spoil and go bad. And then the other thing is just that when you wash the egg, you remove the bloom. That's the big thing, and that's one of the big things you'll hear other folks talk about if you're watching videos on here. And the bloom is this protective layer that the hen is putting on it, or her body's putting on it as she's laying the egg or just before it gets laid. And it is meant to protect the outer shell from bacteria getting inside the egg. And so that's one reason they last longer. That's one reason that some people feel like it's safer to not wash the eggs, actually, is that you're not removing that protective layer, right, that was naturally put there. So I do understand that. I definitely get that. However, when you wash them, you're removing any bacteria that might be there as well. Eggs are porous, so when you wash them, the other concern is that you're going to be scrubbing into the egg. You're going to be pushing any bacteria that might exist on the outside of that egg that you can see, or maybe that you can't see, of course, right? And that you're going to be pushing that into the shell, really, and pushing that into the grooves of the shell, therefore giving it potential to get inside the egg, the part that you're actually going to eat. And so by washing it, you're actually doing yourself harm. For me, I will tell you, I wash them. So I wash ours that we keep here. I don't wash the ones that we're sending out. And part of that is I don't want to take up refrigerator space, and a lot of folks prefer them unwashed. They can always wash them once they receive them. I don't know what my handful of customers do with them. There's a middleman, or middlewoman rather. She takes them to her workplace and sells them there. They get these little insert cards with the information, of course. I have a different label that I put on the outside of the carton, and so they kind of know where it came from and the date or dates that those eggs were collected. So I'm trying to give them as much information as they might need up front to make, an informed decision about the eggs that they're receiving and where they're coming from. But those are unwashed so that I can collect them throughout a week. She takes them to work. It might take her a day or two to sell them, etc. Or if she has them at home and then it takes her a day to get them to work, what have you. So they will last a whole lot longer and then they don't need to be refrigerated. Obviously, it just extends the literal shelf life there. And then again, like I said, the customer can do what they want with them once they get them home. If they want to leave them out on the counter and not wash them, they're still good to go. If they'd like to wash them before they put them in their fridge, great. The reason that I wash ours is we're going to be touching those a lot. And so to me, I do worry about leaving any potential existing bacteria on the outside of the shell. So let's say if you think about the number of times you're going to be touching the egg, you touch it when you go outside to collect it. Of course, that's going to be a dirty process. That's fine. You bring it into the house. You touch it to put it into maybe your egg basket that sits on the counter, which I'm going to show you ours here in a moment. Then you touch it when you go to crack it in the pan. And let's be honest, I always rinse my hands off, especially when I was just doing store-bought eggs. I would rinse my hands off in the sink. But are you really going to take hot soapy water right after you cracked your egg and then threw the shell in the trash and really thoroughly wash your hands before you go back to cooking? Probably not. So in that case, then you're touching your spatula, you're touching the plate that you're going to put your egg on, etc. And then I do like to keep our eggs in the fridge just so they're cold. So again, I don't want them in a carton where they're dirtying the carton and then we're touching the carton, bringing the carton out, etc., and touching dirty eggs every single time we make an egg. To me, that leaves a lot of exposure and potential for bacteria contamination in that way. And so just to kind of show you how we collect and then store eggs in the house, this is the basket that I take outside with me to the coop. You can take any kind of basket, container, whatever you want out there. Honestly, I've collected them in my coat pockets and brought them in. It's right off of our driveway, which is great. So if I'm coming home from somewhere and I'm like, oh, I need to collect those eggs today, I have extra grocery bag in my car, I'll throw them in the grocery bag gently. But this works. This was actually, it's like a garden container that was meant for bringing smaller fruits and veggies up from your garden. I actually found that it works better for the egg collection process. So I use that to bring them into the house. And then here is my cutesy, of course, to store them on the counter, and obviously something that is practical as well, right? So this is what I use. In the summertime, we get about, we'll pile them up about this much if we're busy. But like I said, I always wash a dozen. We use about a dozen a week. That's about all we need. Pop it in the fridge. And then any of the rest that I collect, I do put those in containers to sell, which I'll do another video on that in the future. Kind of my process around that. But so for us, I don't need anything more than this. And again, we've had anywhere between 7 and 19 hens. Currently we have 14 and it's winter, so we're not getting a ton of eggs per day. But there are tons of countertop egg storage options, by the way, so look those up and find what works for you. Now the next question you probably have is, well, okay, if I'm gonna wash my eggs, what do I wash them with? That's a great question. So I'm gonna be very honest and tell you another thing that you're not supposed to do that I totally did do. And that was washing with hand soap. I am such a rebel, I know. Don't tell all of the backyard chicken world. I will get raked over in the comments. It's fine, I don't care. This is what I used. I did, though, finally decide to switch it up and go ahead with this wonderful product. You can, read about that online as well. It's not sponsored, of course. Nobody knows who I am yet, so certainly no one's doing sponsor deals with me. But they're very famous. They were on Shark Tank, but they had started their business and were doing very well before they went on Shark Tank, but it was a thing to try and, make their business bigger, I guess. Seems like a really good family, started as a small family-owned type of deal, and it is a natural enzyme wash cleaner. I did want to go ahead and try this just to see, because again, if you're using a soap, the concern is then you're getting chemicals from the soap inside your egg too. You're potentially pushing bacteria into the egg, and then you're putting the chemicals from the soap in your egg. So I do agree and think about that could be a problem, and I don't want to do that, right? So I did decide to stop using that, and I was like, well, we'll give this a try and see if it works. And guess what, guys? It works. I do like it. It's good. It lathers a little bit, but if you know anything about all kinds of soap, traditional soaps, even like shampoos and body wash and stuff too, I think it's the sodium lauryl sulfate that's in it, because I've, try to be as natural as I can where I can. So I've changed up my body washes and my hair products and all of that over the years. But those types of soaps have very harsh chemicals in them, etc. But that's what gives it that lathering effect that we're all used to, and etc. So just know that it lathers some, but it's not going to lather as much as a soap product will, because it doesn't have that chemical and make it do that. So I also looked up, because I'm like, okay, it's natural enzyme wash, but does it kill bacteria? Because there's no point in me using this just to use it if it doesn't kill the bacteria that's on the eggs. So I did look into that, and yes, it is meant to not just remove the appearance of the dirt and the mud and the poop on the outside of the egg. It is supposed to kill the bacteria through this natural enzyme, breaking down of the enzymes that are in the bacteria, I guess. So it does work, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you now. Okay, so I get my little scrubby wet, and again, this is something that you can buy on Amazon as well. This company has one that kind of goes with this, if you will, but it's honestly the same idea. It looks very much like this. It works very well. So I get that a little bit wet. There's the egg. And the eggs that I grabbed today and yesterday are all pretty clean, actually, but this is what you do. You just kind of, and it looks like I'm being rough with the egg. I'm not. It moves really smooth and easy inside of this brush. And certainly you don't want to put a ton of pressure on it, because you're going to crack your egg. But that's kind of, what it should look like. For me, I usually just leave the water running a little bit and kind of rinse this as you go. I squirt a little bit of it inside of here. There's a little gray feather on that egg. Rinse it a little bit. And I'm just using lukewarm water out of the faucet here. Then you want to have some kind of napkin or towel to put it on. I just went with a napkin today, but you can put it on a towel off to the side if you don't want to be wasteful with paper towels. If you have a particularly crusty spot, I kind of just go like this until I work it off. Oh, there's a pretty one. Sometimes, depending on what they eat and such, you'll get little speckles on the eggs, and that's really pretty. That's also very normal. This one also has some speckles. And so you'll get used to that too, just kind of learning, well, what is dirt and poop versus what is just kind of normal and part of the egg. So since this already just had soap in it, and I don't normally have real bad chunky stuff in my eggs, we're done. Rinse it out, store it upside down on my counter. Because I already have a lot of stuff on the counter, I just put this underneath my sink, but you could store it wherever you want. Egg basket's going to go back up on the counter, and we're done. So the last thing I'll do is just dry them off real quick. They kind of air dry pretty quickly, and then I'll put them inside of our egg carton that's in the fridge. The other important thing that you should know if you are going to wash eggs is don't submerge them. So kind of for the reasons we just mentioned, the fragile shell, the fact that you could be getting stuff inside the egg in, washing them as it is. Don't submerge them in water. That is not good for them. It's also just not necessary. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description of my video. I'll also link the products that I used here today in case you're interested in checking those out. And also just tell me in the comments, what do you do with your eggs? Again, I said at the beginning of the video, I already know a lot of people don't wash them and don't prefer to, so hopefully there won't be any negative comments regarding that, but just let us know, what do you do with your eggs? What do you prefer to do? How do you store them on your counter at home? All right, thanks everybody, and have a great day. We'll see you next time.